Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Arizona Dreams. Subscribers appreciate you. New viewers, you gotta subscribe so that you get the awesome content that we got. About a year ago, Reader's Digest released an article called The 10 Most Dangerous Bugs to Watch Out For This Summer. It still applies. It applies for pretty much every summer. Arizona has all 10 of these guys. I don't know that technically all of these things are gonna qualify as bugs because I'm pretty sure arachnids are not technically considered bugs, but they're on the list. So why are they talking about these things? Well, bugs can sting, they can bite you, so you need to be aware of what's there. Jumping right in, the first one on their list is the black widow spider. And I honestly have never run into a black widow spider, thank God. But my understanding is that if you have pools, they like to hide underneath the filter caps. They like moisture, but obviously I don't think they jump in the water. Maybe they do, I don't know. They're about the size of a paperclip with venoms 15 times stronger than a rattlesnake. They have that very distinct mark, right? So they're black and then they have this kind of red marking on them. So it's pretty easy to see, and they also are compared to an hourglass, which I guess I can kind of see that, but black widow spiders, that's the number one on the list, and guess what? They're an Arizona resident. So the next one on our list are tarantulas. Yep, another spider, and of course we have them. Tarantulas are a little more common as far as I know, but again, never seen a wild tarantula here. They are not as deadly unless you have some allergies to them, but the bites are venomous and they can be causing irritation, rashes, and some pain. Tarantulas can live to be 30 years old, so they've got a nice long lifespan. Also, they can get to as big, and I love this comparison from Reader's Digest, as big as a personal pan pizza. I'm going to say that usually, from what I've seen in captivity, they're about as big as my hand. So that should give you a pretty good idea. But they're saying a personal pan pizza, and that's about 6 inches. So typically tarantulas will move away from you and try to avoid you. So as long as you're not cornering them, you should be okay. Even if you do run into one, just steer clear and you should be fine. Next one on the list are Africanized bees. So bees in general. We haven't really had any bee problems our entire time in the valley. Typically they're supposed to be in the south and southwestern portions of the United States. And I've heard about them on the news. They stay in a swarm, so you don't typically see one bee by itself as far as the Africanized bees go. You see a hive, maybe just call an exterminator and have them remove the hive for you. Africanized bees. Staying on the flying insect level, the next one, which pretty much everywhere that I've ever seen, mosquitoes. And a lot of people think, well, you're coming to the dry heat, there's not a lot of water around, blah, blah, blah. They're here. In our last place, we lived close to a man-made lake, and my wife and my daughter would get eaten alive on the regular until we really started treating for prevention of mosquitoes in the area. Mosquitoes love stagnant water. They do carry diseases, and their bites can itch, and sometimes they can swell a little bit, so maybe even a little bit painful. When I was in Michigan, we used to burn coffee grounds to keep them away, and that actually seemed to work pretty well. So citronella and things like that. All right, moving away from the flyers, and let's talk about some ground occupants again. The next one is the red fire ants. Red fire ants actually came from South America. They were stowaways on some boats. Shocker there, we get a lot of stowaway things that have been brought into the United States over the years. Red fire ants can sting, if you will. They're found in picnic areas, they're found in playgrounds, and especially golf courses. They really like golf courses for some reason. I have seen these guys, never been bit or stung, whichever the true terminology is, but they're pretty easy to avoid. Just, if you see a bunch of red ants, get away from them. If you've got an infestation of red ants, call an exterminator. I don't know what the treatment is for a red ant bite. I don't know that there is any. Maybe just a topical anti-itch type scenario, but red ants, yep, they also reside here in Arizona. Jumping back into the air again, let's talk about wasps. And I have seen a few wasps around here, not as bad as when we were in Houston. They were crazy there. But wasps, long, slender body with the kind of cylinders into the pieces, they do sting. And they seem to be a little more aggressive than bees do. And they seem to be very territorial. At least the ones in Houston were very territorial around the garage where we had the infestation. You can buy wasp spray for them. Yet another fun-loving resident of Arizona that you have to be aware of. Again, if you see them, just give them their space. steer clear of them. And if you get a wasp nest or, the little pod things that look like it's mud, right? And they look like little tunnels up on the walls or whatever on the ceiling, outside or in your garage or whatever, call an exterminator and have that removed, because nobody wants to get stung by a wasp. Even though it's not deadly, it's still not fun to go through. For you arachnid lovers, we also are home to the brown recluse spider. Brown recluse spiders, we had them back in Michigan and Ohio as well. They have kind of it almost looks like a violin on their back. Even though they're called brown recluse, they can actually go to more of a tan color and almost with a yellow hue to it. Their venom can be deadly to little guys, right? About 7 and under. You really got to be paying attention. Otherwise, it's a painful bite. I don't know what the treatment is for a brown recluse bite, but definitely something to be aware of. And they usually, much like the tarantulas and even the black widows, don't really seek you out to do some damage to you. They're usually only if you're provoking them or cornering them. I'm going to skip the next one and go to their next one on their list, which is ticks. Yeah, ticks are pretty much everywhere. I don't know of any place that I've lived in the United States that didn't have ticks. Typically, you get them from being outdoors and long-term outdoor exposure. You're supposed to remove the tick within 36 hours, and that should reduce the risk of catching the disease. They tend to attach, and then what they're doing is they're burrowing almost into your skin. There's a proper way to remove them. You can look that up. If you're exposed, make sure you get them off. If you're feeling any kind of craziness, get to the doctors. This one is also one that I've seen pretty much every place I've lived. Centipedes and or millipedes. We have them here. In centipedes and millipedes, they're venomous, but it's not a poisonous venom. It can be toxic. So if you have an allergy, you need to be aware of those things. They're usually hiding under rocks and stuff like that. If you do get them inside, they tend to be in the wet areas by your bathrooms, your toilets, your sinks, your tubs and showers. The last one that I skipped is one that I have some personal experience with. And I can tell you, they're not fun. Scorpions. We have them. In Gilbert, we have a lot of them. In fact, you can go online and search for scorpion heat map for Phoenix, and it'll pull up a map and show you every area and where the hotbeds are for scorpions. So if you're worried about scorpions, go look at that map. Just do a quick Google search. These guys, typically, they're the biggest I think I've seen in the house or in my yard has been about that big. Okay, so maybe an inch or two. They can get out in the wild, up to 4 or 5 inches, I believe. They do sting. They sting unprovoked. They can live for a long time. They can go without eating for like a year or some silly nonsense like that. They can go without drinking for like a month. They can sit motionless for like a week. So you can't even tell if they're dead. So one tip for you is don't touch a scorpion if you think it's dead. Squash it and then remove it with something that's protecting you, so in case it is alive, it's not going to pop you. I can tell you, at least for me, having been stung, and there's a video on that whole experience, that it stings. It does. It woke me up. I got stung in the morning in my bed. So it did wake me up, but scorpions are hard to get rid of. They burrow into the ground. They hide in the walls and the cracks in the walls, like the wall behind me. In the video that if you go check out, you can see me hunting them down with the black light. They can be, there's over-the-counter sprays that you can get. You can call an exterminator. They will come out once a month and treat your yard. But I will tell you that even with the treatment, once you start the treatment, you'll notice that they do go away. We haven't seen too many, if any, in the house where they spray, right? But if you stop, they'll come back. And the other thing is when you spray, basically what happens is they scatter and they go to the other yards that haven't sprayed. So when your neighbors spray, they come back. And our exterminator does spray and a ground treatment for that. That's a water soluble. So it doesn't just get washed away per se, but it does coat and sticks around when the rain comes. But all 10 of the Reader Digest 10 deadliest insects, our residents here in Arizona, I've given you my personal experience. Let me know if you guys have had any experience with them and what you think about that list. Like I said, most of them you don't really see and they're not that big of a concern, but you do need to be aware that they're here and you do need to understand how to handle it if you do see them. So you know the drill. Subscribe, share, like, comments down below, ring the bell so you get the alerts, and check back for the next video. Take care.
Perfect.